In this video, we'll be taking a look at 5 NHL games happening on March 10th, 2026, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 10 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 5 NHL games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start: if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Los Angeles Kings versus Boston Bruins. The Los Angeles Kings head into Boston on Tuesday to face the Bruins at TD Garden, and the setup is pretty interesting for both sides. The Kings just pulled out an overtime win on Monday afternoon against Columbus, which sounds great on paper, but it also means they roll straight into this matchup on a back-to-back with some extra mileage in the legs. Before that, they took a loss to Colorado, and they have the Islanders waiting after this, so the schedule has not exactly been gentle on them. They have also dropped 7 of their last 10 games, which tells you the results have not matched the talent lately, even if the effort is there in stretches. Boston is coming off a small roller coaster too. They beat Washington, then fell in overtime to Pittsburgh on Sunday, and their next game lines up against San Jose. They have basically split their last 10 games, so they are not on some huge heater, but they are not in free fall either. It is that slightly messy middle ground where you see both strong stretches and frustrating breakdowns in the same week. The home and road resumes tilt this spot toward the Bruins. Los Angeles has actually traveled very well, sitting at 16-8-7 away from home, which is no joke. Boston, though, has been a handful on their own ice with a 24-8-1 home record, and that kind of track record usually does not happen by accident. There is a comfort level at TD Garden. Line changes are cleaner, matchups are easier to manage, and it often shows up in late-game pushes. Defensively, Boston has had some ugly moments lately. They have allowed at least 5 goals in 2 of their last 3 games, and that kind of leakage is not exactly what you want to see against a Kings team that can still create chances when they get rolling. It sounds strange to say the Bruins can be trusted here when they are giving up numbers like that, yet the context matters. Their offensive group at home still tilts the ice often enough that they can overcome some of those lapses, especially against a Kings team that has been trending downward in the standings. Los Angeles tends to play its sharpest hockey on the road, and they are expected to have Kuemper in net, which gives them a stabilizing presence. That part keeps this from being a simple walkover for Boston. Even so, with the Kings dragging from the extra workload of that overtime game and their recent run of losses, the combination of Boston's home form and offensive punch makes the Bruins the more trustworthy side to get the job done over 60 minutes plus any extra time if needed. As our first pick for this matchup, the Boston Bruins money line is our full game side pick. The Kings come in averaging 2.6 goals per game, and they convert on 16.5% of their power play chances, which is not elite, but it is steady enough that you cannot just keep handing them opportunities. On the flip side, they allow 2.92 goals per game and kill 75.3% of opposing power plays, which leaves some air for opponents to operate when they get their looks. Boston's offensive numbers push things even further toward a higher scoring script. They average 3.33 goals per game and strike on 25.4% of their power plays, so when they get a man advantage, it often feels like a real threat, not just 2 minutes of puck movement. Defensively, they allow 3.13 goals per game and kill 77.3% of penalties, which is serviceable but not exactly a shutdown profile. When both sides sit in that zone where they can score and also give up their share, it usually sets the table for more swings on the scoreboard, not fewer. Here is the thing: the combination of Los Angeles playing on short rest and Boston's style at home often nudges games toward a quicker tempo and more mistakes, and mistakes usually mean chances. The Kings should still create enough offensively to hold up their end with their usual production range, especially against a Bruins team that has recently had trouble keeping the puck out of their own net. At the same time, Boston's power play and home scoring rhythm suggest they can pile on if Los Angeles takes even a few extra penalties or starts to sag defensively as the game wears on. Putting that together, the matchup leans toward a total that trends higher rather than one that gets stuck in a grindy, low-event pattern. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Pittsburgh Penguins versus Carolina Hurricanes. The Pittsburgh Penguins head to Raleigh to face the Carolina Hurricanes at Lenovo Center on Tuesday in a pretty important Metropolitan Division showdown. The Penguins are coming off a loss to the Flyers, a big win over the Bruins, and they have the Golden Knights lined up next, so their schedule has not exactly been soft lately. They have split their last 8 games, which sums up the mood around them right now. Sometimes sharp, sometimes flat. Carolina rolls in with a different vibe. The Hurricanes just beat the Oilers, then stumbled against the Flames, and they will see the Blues next. They have taken 9 of their past 12 games, which speaks to how steady they have been for weeks. The history between these two has a little twist. The Penguins won the only meeting this season by a 5-1 count at home, so they know they can grab a result against this opponent. Before that, though, the Hurricanes had a 7-2 edge in the previous 9 head-to-head matchups, which keeps that one blowout in some perspective. Overall, Carolina has taken 7 of the past 10 against Pittsburgh, and that pattern is hard to ignore. From a betting angle, the temptation with the Penguins is pretty clear. You can do worse than the Penguins and the big plus money, since you do not often get a likely playoff team with a chance to almost double your stake if they pull the upset. They are not skating like a doormat, even if the results have cooled off. Recent form still leans toward the home side. The Penguins hit the road after that 5-4 overtime win against Boston on Sunday, but they are just 1-2-1 across the past 4 outings and have not won in regulation since beating Vegas back on March 1st. They are 4-3 in their last 10, which is decent on paper, yet it feels more like a team searching for a spark than a group on a real roll. Carolina, meanwhile, has been a handful at home. The Hurricanes have won 3 of the past 4 in this series and each of the last 5 meetings at Lenovo Center since mid-January of last season. Across those 5 home games, Carolina has outscored Pittsburgh 18-9, which hints at both offensive pressure and a comfort level in their own building. They come off that disappointing loss at Calgary that dulled the end of an otherwise solid road trip, but they are still 12-2 across their past 16 games. On home ice, they are 10-0-1 in their last 11, with their most recent regulation loss they're coming against Colorado back on January 3rd. There is also the rebound factor. This is a classic response spot after that setback against the Flames, and this team has not dropped 2 straight games since January 13th. That sort of resilience does not guarantee anything, but it does show how rarely they let a bad night turn into a skid. Zooming out over the season, the Hurricanes have simply been the better team, and they sit as the 3rd best home group in the league so far. They have won 7 of their last 9 overall and 10 of their last 11 at home. The Penguins, in contrast, are 1-3 in their past 4 games and 1-3 in their last 4 on the road, and that combination makes it hard to trust them in this particular building. With the way Carolina has been rolling at home and the way Pittsburgh has been grinding without much payoff lately, this shapes up as a spot where the hosts can control things and win by a clear margin rather than just squeaking by. As our first pick for this matchup, the Carolina Hurricanes to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. Offensively, Carolina is averaging 3.49 goals per game and cashes on 22.5% of its power play chances. Defensively, that same team is allowing 2.86 goals per game while killing 79.5% of opposing power plays. Those numbers point to a group that can score, but also one that usually does not let games get too wild at its own end. On the other bench, the Penguins carry some firepower of their own. They are averaging 3.37 goals per game and scoring on 25.3% of their power play opportunities, which is more than enough to worry any penalty kill. Defensively, they allow 2.84 goals per game and kill 84.4% of their opponent's power plays, which is a strong penalty killing rate and a goals against figure that stays in a tight range. Put together, both teams sit in that space where they can generate offense, but their defensive structures and special teams keep things from turning into constant track meets. When each side is usually holding opponents under 3 goals on average and both penalty kills are solid, there is a natural pull toward more controlled, lower scoring stretches, especially in a division game with plenty on the line. Coaches in spots like this usually lean on shorter benches, safer exits, and fewer risky pinches, which can slow down rush chances even if the talent on the ice is capable of scoring in bunches. The power play units are good enough that a parade to the box could still swing things, but the strong penalty killing on both sides makes it more likely that special teams produce a handful of key moments rather than a constant flood of goals. With both attacks balanced by responsible defensive play and goaltending backed by those goals against numbers, this matchup projects more toward a game where chances matter more than volume and where a few key plays decide things instead of a scoreboard that keeps climbing every few minutes. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Toronto Maple Leafs versus Montreal Canadiens. Rivalry nights between Toronto and Montreal feel bigger than a regular Tuesday on the schedule. The crowd leans in a little closer, every hit seems heavier, and one early bounce can change the way both benches carry themselves for the rest of the game. Montreal leans into a fast, aggressive style that invites action all over the ice. They push forward, hunt chances, and often turn a small opening into a full rush the other way, which looks great when it works and looks wild when it does not. Their special teams reflect that personality, a power play that can punish a lazy stick or a slow change, paired with defensive moments where a single missed read suddenly becomes a high-quality look against. Toronto comes in with a very different kind of tension around them. The season has not been a smooth victory lap. The standings do not match the talent on paper, and there have been enough frustrating nights to test the patience of fans who live and breathe every shift. Even so, their ability to generate chances has not disappeared. It is the messy breakdowns and lapses in coverage that have people shaking their heads more than a lack of creativity with the puck. That combination, a dangerous attack joined with a reputation for being shaky in their own end, often hides how live they really are when they are labeled as the team that is expected to chase rather than control. In a rivalry setting where emotions run hot, whistles come in waves, and the game can suddenly tilt into a rush-for-rush trading of blows, that kind of offensive ceiling becomes even more valuable. Montreal still carries the expectation of handling business at home, but the chaos that usually comes with this matchup quietly favors the side that can turn mistakes into goals the fastest and does not mind skating in a track meet for 60 minutes. As our first pick for this matchup, the Toronto Maple Leafs money line is our full game side pick. These two teams rarely play a gentle, cautious brand of hockey against each other, and you can almost feel the pace pick up a notch when both sets of forwards start stretching the ice. Montreal loves to trade chances, sometimes even when logic says they should slow it down a bit. They can light it up when they connect on their passes through the neutral zone, and their man advantage has the kind of rhythm that punishes lazy clears and tired legs. The flip side is that this style leaves room for turnovers, odd man rushes, and frantic scrambles around their own crease, which keep both fan bases and total bettors on edge from horn to horn. Toronto fits neatly into that picture because their games so often tilt toward action on both ends of the rink. They score enough to keep any opponent honest, but they also give up the kind of looks that turn a quiet period into a sudden flurry. It is the sort of profile that feels frustrating if you are rooting for clean defensive structure, and oddly inviting if you are simply hoping the scoreboard operator stays busy all night. Put those tendencies together in one building, add a rivalry crowd that reacts to every hit and every near miss, and you get a setting where momentum can swing hard in just a couple of shifts. A loose stretch in the second period, a string of penalties that put special teams in the spotlight, or a late push with an empty net at the far end can all turn a fairly normal game script into something that suddenly races past what people expected. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Vegas Golden Knights versus Dallas Stars. The matchup in Dallas feels like two very different moods colliding on the same sheet of ice. One team is skating with that quiet belief that comes from winning over and over, and the other is trying to find that old swagger again after a few too many bumps in the road. Dallas comes in with a record that reads like a true contender, sitting in that 39 to 14 to 10 range, and a line like that builds trust inside a room. At home, they have turned their rink into a kind of comfort zone, where routines are sharp, last change is a real weapon, and the crowd feels like an extra layer of pressure on whoever visits. Vegas sits closer to a 29 to 21 to 14 style record, which is still respectable, but it carries more bruises and a few results that linger in the back of the mind. On the road, their good nights look very good, but the bad ones tend to be loud and hard to forget, especially when an early mistake snowballs. Injuries add another twist to how this feels. Vegas is missing some of those heartbeat pieces who usually calm things down when the game tilts or the building gets noisy. Without those steady voices, you see a little more risk, not always the fun kind, more the extra pass across the ice that turns into a rush going the other way. Dallas is banged up too, and some of their headline forwards are out, but their response looks more settled, with depth players sliding up, keeping things simple, and stacking honest shifts. That sort of next man up effort rarely shows up on a highlight reel, but it shows up every time they close out a defensive zone shift cleanly and change without drama. The way these two teams like to play only underlines the contrast. Dallas is very comfortable in a structured, grown-up game where they manage the puck, stay connected, and make the ice feel small for whoever they are up against. They do not chase chaos for fun. They are happy to win shifts by small margins and let that repetition grind teams down. Vegas still has plenty of skill, but without some guiding pieces they can lean into a looser style, stretching the rink, forcing plays, and sometimes turning what should be a simple breakout into a scramble back toward their own net. That can look electric when confidence is high, but in a loud building it can flip just as fast. Recent form quietly shapes the whole story. Dallas has been on a heater that looks like 9-0 to 1/10 games, the kind of run that makes a team feel like they always have an answer. Vegas has been closer to 4-6-0 in that same stretch, and that record carries a different weight, a bit more searching for identity, a bit more who are we right now chatter on the bench. In tight moments late in games, one group is used to finding a way, and the other is still trying to prove to itself that it can. From a spread angle, all of this gently pulls attention toward the home side. The stronger current form, the comfort in their own building, the way their structure has held together even with key injuries, and the way Vegas has wobbled when forced to chase, all line up behind the idea that the hosts are better built to shoulder the number in this spot. Vegas still has the burst to flip a script if they strike early and play from ahead, but if you stack form, stability, and health, the balance of evidence points to the home sweaters as the more reliable side to cover. As our first pick for this matchup, the Dallas Stars money line is our full game side pick. Across the season, these teams' averages sit in that neighborhood of 3 goals per game, which tells you their systems create chances and they are not shy about taking them. Dallas gets there with smart entries and layers of support, so even when big names are missing, the way they attack still has a clear shape. Vegas hits that mark in more streaky waves, sometimes stringing together electric shifts, sometimes going quiet for stretches, which is fun for viewers and tricky for anyone trying to project the final tally. Injuries bend the scoring outlook in 2 different directions at once. For Dallas, missing top forwards naturally trims some finishing talent, and it nudges the group toward a calmer, tidier game because depth players usually lean into safe decisions and coaches tend to reward that. For Vegas, losing key two-way pieces can actually open the ice since they lose some of the stabilizing presence that usually keeps the neutral zone clean. That pushes them to rely more on high-skill plays to crack things open, and those attempts can turn into rush chances going either way. When that happens, what starts as a careful game can suddenly feel like a track meet. Pace is the quiet knob that will likely decide how many goals we see. If Dallas manages things the way they prefer, with controlled exits, smart line changes, and short, disciplined shifts, the flow settles into a more patient rhythm. In that kind of script, you do not see as many odd man rushes or wild swings right after turnovers. You get more board battles, more pucks chipped to safe areas, and more time where both teams are set in their structure. Those nights often land in modest territory on the scoreboard, the kind of 3-1 or 3-2 results that feel like a dress rehearsal for spring hockey. If Vegas manages to drag the pace upward, the whole field changes. Long stretch passes, aggressive pinches, and bold cross-ice looks start to creep in, and every mistake has a chance to become a dangerous chance. Dallas can absolutely skate in that style. They have enough skill for it, but it brings more broken plays, more scrambles in front, and more tired legs trying to clear rebounds late in periods. With 2 teams that already live around that 3 goals per game mark, it does not take many of those broken moments to push the total higher than expected. So the number lives in a small tug-of-war between control and chaos. If the home side keeps the tempo measured and protects the middle of the ice, a tighter outcome is very realistic. If the visitors succeed in turning this into a rush-heavy, special teams-flavored night, the ingredients are there for a game where chances pile up and the scoreboard keeps ticking along. Given how both offenses are wired and how easily this matchup can tilt into a faster rhythm, it is not hard to lean toward a script where the final tally ends up on the higher side of the projection. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Edmonton Oilers versus Colorado Avalanche. This matchup feels like a playoff dress rehearsal, only with regular season clothes on. Edmonton rolls in sitting at 31-25-8, hanging on to position in a tight Pacific race, while Colorado is cruising at 43-10-9 with that big, shiny goal differential at the top of the league. The game sits in Denver at altitude, in a building that can get loud in a hurry when the home team starts skating downhill, and the national spotlight only turns the volume up more. Star power is very real here, with Connor McDavid driving one bench and Nathan MacKinnon answering from the other side, so every shift has that little extra buzz that makes you lean forward without even noticing it. Edmonton's situation feels a bit thinner when you zoom in on who is actually available. Matthias Janmark is done for the year after surgery, Curtis Lazar is expected to sit for a few weeks, and Adam Henrique is officially on the roster but stuck in that gray area, nursing that knock from taking a shot off the leg against Carolina and sitting as a game-time question mark. That kind of uncertainty does not always show up in fancy charts, but it changes which lines can be trusted and which combinations the coaching staff is comfortable throwing over the boards in tough moments. Colorado has its own list of bruises, which keeps this from feeling like a perfect roster versus a broken one. Artturi Leikkonen is out with that upper body issue, Logan O'Connor is still working back from hip surgery, and Gabriel Landeskog has been moved to that week-to-week label with a lower body problem after already missing the last outing against Minnesota, with no firm green light yet for this one. So the Avalanche are not at full strength on the wings, and that matters for rush chances and board battles, even if casual fans mostly just see the top names and shrug. Even with those holes, the identity gap between these two teams is hard to ignore. Colorado sits at the top of the league in scoring and also in keeping the puck out, a rare double where they can skate you out of the building or lock you in a defensive cage if they feel like it. Edmonton is near the top in scoring, which fits the highlight reels, but sits way down near the bottom in goals against, which fits the long, frustrated post-game interviews. One team tends to get what it wants at both ends, and the other pays a tax for trying to win track meets on most nights. Down the middle, Colorado has added another layer of control, shoring up the center group with Nicholas Roy joining through that recent move and the return of Nazem Kadri giving them a deep spine behind MacKinnon. That lets them roll matchups, win more defensive zone draws, and tilt the ice in subtle ways that do not always look flashy but matter when you are checking the scoreboard late in the third. In net, the Avalanche enjoys steady work from the Blackwood and Wedgwood tandem, which has lived near the top of the league in the usual goalie numbers, while Edmonton keeps staring at the crease and wondering when it will all settle down. Tristan Jarry came over from Pittsburgh to bring calm, but the results so far have been shaky, even drawing attention in reports about tensions in practice, which is never the vibe you want around the most important position on the ice. Layer in the altitude, Colorado's efficient structure, Edmonton's thinner depth from injuries, and a defensive group that can start leaking chances when stretched, and all of that weight quietly pulls the spread conversation toward one bench more than the other. As our first pick for this matchup, the Colorado Avalanche to cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The market clearly treats this as a potential track meet, and honestly, you can see why when you picture McDavid flying through the neutral zone and MacKinnon carving up the middle of the ice on the very next shift. Fans and bettors see those two names, remember a few wild box scores, and instantly imagine a 4-3 kind of chaos game without even thinking about how these teams have been winning lately. Both offenses absolutely have the talent to trade punches all night. Edmonton's season has been built around the idea that if they score enough, the defensive issues can be forgiven for another day. So the narrative of a high-scoring show fits what people expect from them. Colorado can bury teams when they get into rhythm too, which means the idea of a wide-open game is not crazy on the surface at all. Here is the thing, though, the recent blueprint for Colorado has looked a lot more like controlled violence than a street brawl. They have smothered weaker opponents with scorelines that look lopsided but come from quiet, methodical defense as much as pretty rush goals. They have also shown they can settle in and play a patient, low-mistake style against stronger teams, block out the middle, and lean on goaltending when needed. Those wins still count as offense in the standings, but the path there often runs through structure first and fireworks second. Edmonton's recent results tell a similar story, just with a slightly different flavor. They can still put up 4 goals and walk out of tough buildings happy, but the games that feel stable for them are the ones where they do not let the scoreline get silly in both directions. With Janmark and Lazar out and Henrique banged up, the depth scoring takes a hit, and the penalty kill mix gets thinner, which quietly reduces the number of clean, dangerous looks you expect from their lower lines. It is still an attack that can explode, but the margin for error underneath the top names shrinks a bit. Colorado's injuries on the wing trim finishing talent, but they also push the coaching staff toward a shorter bench and a style that feels more like late spring hockey than wide-open October hockey. That means more minutes for the most trusted defensive forwards, heavier lean on a strong blue line, and a focus on protecting leads rather than chasing a wild exchange of chances, especially in that thin Denver air that wears on visiting legs shift by shift. Games shaped like that can still produce moments of pure skill, but they often land on scorelines that look tighter than the star power on the marquee suggests. Put all of it together, and you have a matchup where public perception screams offense, yet the current form, the injuries, and the way both benches are likely to manage minutes point more toward a controlled, disciplined pace than a full-speed track meet from whistle to whistle. So when the decision finally has to be made on the total, that collection of little signals pushes the lean in one clear direction rather than the other. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.